So the Jedi Order, these ancient monk warriors with rules about detachment and serenity, somehow ended up leading battalions of clone troopers into the most brutal war the galaxy had ever seen. That's like hiring a group of philosophers to run a tank squadron and hoping no one notices the irony. They were supposed to be peacekeepers-wise, noble.com. Instead, they became glorified action figures in a Senate-sponsored war commercial. And it's not like they eased into it. One day they're meditating in the temple, and the next they're riding gunships like it's Fast and Furious Coruscant Drift. You've got Yoda doing backflips through artillery fire and Mace Windu swinging his lightsaber like he's auditioning for a rock band. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan's out there playing therapist and tactician at the same time. The Jedi didn't just adapt, they practically rebranded overnight. But here's the kicker. They didn't even question it. The council didn't sit down and say, hey, maybe training kids from birth to repress emotions doesn't mix well with commanding thousands of genetically engineered soldiers. Nope, they just nodded and said, may the Force be with you, as if that would somehow fix the ethical disaster they were about to walk into. And sure, it looked epic. Lightsabers clashing. Jedi doing acrobatics in the middle of battlefield chaos. But behind all that, flash was something way darker. These weren't generals. They weren't leaders in the way they needed to be. They were being used, twisted, turned into pawns in a war they didn't understand. And the worst part is, they thought they were doing the right thing. There's something heartbreaking about watching a group that once stood for peace slowly lose itself to politics and power. They didn't even realize it was happening. They thought they were saving the Republic. They thought they were protecting people. But really, they were drifting further and further from what they were meant to be. And by the time they figured it out, it was already too late. In this video, we're breaking down how the Jedi became generals, why it was a catastrophic mistake, and how that decision led to the fall of everything they were sworn to protect. We'll explore the politics, the hypocrisy, the blind spots, and the twisted brilliance of Palpatine's plan to weaponize wisdom. Strap in, because we're pulling the curtain back on one of the greatest Jedi failures in Star Wars history. You ever look at the Clone Wars and think, wait, why are a bunch of monks with laser swords leading battalions? Like, really think about it. These are people trained from childhood to meditate, suppress emotion, and never form attachments. And suddenly they're commanding troopers in active war zones, like it's part of the syllabus. It's like giving your local yoga instructor control of a tank division and saying good luck. The Jedi were supposed to be peacekeepers, guardians of harmony, spiritual advisors, that sort of thing. Not frontline strategists, dropping into battle with clone commandos at their flanks. And yet that's exactly what happened. Mace Windu slicing through droids on Geonosis, Yoda hopping around like a green flashbang. It all looked cool on screen, but made zero sense on paper. So, what exactly happened? How did the Republic go from asking the Jedi for wisdom to handing them the keys to a galactic war machine? Was it desperation, political manipulation, or just the biggest case of, we have no one else in galactic history? Because let's be honest, there's a big difference between brokering peace on Naboo and coordinating planetary sieges. And what's weirder is how fast the Jedi said yes. No long debates, no moral hesitation. Just, boom. One emergency vote in the Senate, and suddenly the Jedi are throwing battle armor over their robes and jumping into gunships. You'd think an ancient order would need more time to process existential shifts. Apparently not, when there are lasers involved. That's what makes it so fascinating. This massive contradiction right at the heart of Star Wars. How did the galaxy's most peaceful force become one of its most aggressive, and did anyone stop to ask whether that made them stronger, or just easier to manipulate? Okay, but seriously, how did no one see the red flags here? The Jedi took an oath to avoid attachment, to serve the Force above all, and to remain politically neutral. Then someone waves a war in their face, and they drop all that faster than you can say Order 66. It's almost impressive how quickly they folded under pressure. The Jedi Council should have known better. They weren't fresh recruits. They were ancient scholars with access to the entire history of the galaxy. And yet, somehow, when the Republic starts mass-producing soldiers with no rights, no families, and no say, the Jedi are like, sure, let's go lead them into battle. Nothing ethically weird about that at all. What really stings is what the Jedi lost in the process. Not just lives, but identity, culture, legacy. The war didn't just kill them off physically, it hollowed them out from the inside, turned wisdom into orders, turned balance into kill counts. There was a time when people looked to the Jedi for answers. Not because they had armies, but because they had insight. The war stripped that away. It blurred the line between heroism and obedience. The Jedi started measuring success not by peace, but by victory. And somewhere in the chaos, they forgot who they were supposed to be. You can feel it in characters like Ala Secura and Luminara. Jedi who were once mentors and mystics, now reduced to mission briefings and casualty reports. It's no wonder so many Padawans were left confused, disillusioned, or just plain abandoned. The war didn't teach them enlightenment. It taught them how to follow orders and hope the next mission didn't kill them. And Anakin, for all his flaws, he felt it the most. He was born to be a warrior, but wanted to be something more. And instead of nurturing that conflict, the Jedi shoved him into battle after battle until the only thing he could trust was his lightsaber. It wasn't just his downfall, it was theirs too. The war didn't destroy the Jedi, it made them destroy themselves. And by the time they realized it, the light had already gone out. And yet, despite all of this, there's something strangely breathtaking about how the Jedi endured as long as they did. These were individuals trained for diplomacy, not combat. And still, they faced down separatist invasions, fought alongside strangers, and held the line on countless worlds. Think about Obi-Wan, this quiet, reflective knight who preferred meditation to battle. And yet he becomes a general, a strategist, a leader on the front lines. He commands respect, not through fear, but through calm and clarity. Even in the middle of chaos, there's grace in how he carries himself. Or take Yoda, this ancient being who speaks in riddles and teaches patience. Now jumping into battle like a force-powered whirlwind, it's a surreal sight, but also oddly inspiring. These aren't natural warriors, they're peacekeepers, forced to adapt, and somehow, they rise to the moment. That doesn't mean it was right, but it does show the depth of their conviction. The Jedi didn't become generals because they wanted to. They did it because they believed the galaxy needed them. That misplaced faith might have doomed them, but the effort behind it was still kind of incredible. For all their mistakes, the Jedi tried to protect what they loved, and in doing so, revealed the best and worst parts of themselves in equal measure. But here's the twist. Even in all that failure, there's something to be learned. The Jedi Order fell, yes, but the Force didn't. The ideals they abandoned can still be reclaimed. Maybe not in a temple, maybe not in robes, but in the choices of those who came after. Look at Ahsoka. She walked away from the Order, but never stopped being a Jedi in spirit. She questioned the war, challenged her masters, and still chose to fight for what was right. That's the kind of leadership the galaxy needed. Not blind obedience, but thoughtful rebellion. Or QAnon, a survivor of the Purge who hid from the world, then slowly found the courage to teach again. His story wasn't about war, it was about healing. About building something new from the ashes of something broken. And that's powerful. Even Rey, for all the baggage tied to her journey, inherited more than a saber. She inherited the responsibility to choose what kind of Jedi she would be. And for the first time in a long while, someone had the chance to write a different path. One rooted in balance, not battle. The Jedi as generals was a mistake. But the Jedi as mentors, guides, and protectors. That's still possible. The question is whether anyone's brave enough to try. In the end, the Clone Wars didn't just wipe out the Jedi physically. It erased them philosophically. Turned their robes into uniforms, their temples into bunkers, their ideals into afterthoughts. And when the dust cleared, all that was left was silence. Palpatine didn't need to defeat the Jedi, he just needed them to stop being Jedi. And when they took up those general ranks, they gave him exactly what he wanted. Warriors instead of thinkers, soldiers instead of seers. And once that transformation was complete, Order 66 was just the final nudge. It's tragic because it was so preventable. If the Jedi had stayed true to their code, if they had said no, if they had remembered that peace is not found through power, maybe they could have seen what was coming. Maybe they could have stopped it. But they didn't. And now, their legacy is scarred by a war they never should have fought. A war that cost them everything, and left the galaxy wondering what they ever stood for in the first place. The Jedi died, not on the battlefield, but in the moment they became generals. Thank you for watching the whole video. I make videos because of my love for Star Wars and Marvel. I've been asked countless times how I get my subtitles, and I generate them automatically with a tool I built. That same tool can be used here on my website. It's completely free and doesn't require signing up. My website contains the subtitle generator that is perfect for any video. Blogging post, where you can sign up with your email and receive notifications for when I post, and also my 3 channels. Critical Analysis Hub focuses on Star Wars and Marvel movies. Critical Analysis Hub Plus looks at Star Wars and Marvel shows. And Critical Analysis Hub XP centers on video games, like The Last of Us series, Jedi Survivor, and GTA 5. Thank you for being a fan.